A solemn warning has been issued, a stark message delivered with the weight of experience and the gravity of concern. This isn't just another opinion piece or a fleeting headline. It comes not from a political pundit, eager to stir the pot, but from former Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, a man who dedicated decades to interpreting and upholding the very laws that govern this nation. His words carry immense significance. Kennedy, after decades on the bench, witnessing firsthand the evolution of American jurisprudence and the shifting tides of political discourse, believes American democracy faces a grave risk, a danger that extends beyond partisan squabbles and touches the very core of our republic. He sees storm clouds gathering on the horizon. His concern isn't about a single election result, a particular policy debate, or the outcome of any specific political campaign, but a deeper, more insidious shift in civic culture, a corrosion of the values and principles that underpin a healthy and functioning democracy. He sees a nation fractured by partisanship, increasingly divided along ideological lines, with little common ground for constructive dialogue, where civil discourse, the cornerstone of a healthy democracy, is increasingly replaced by hostility, personal attacks, and the demonization of opposing viewpoints. Nuance is lost in the shouting match, and even the judiciary, the independent arbiter of justice, is under attack, its legitimacy questioned, its integrity challenged. The danger, he warns with unmistakable urgency, is the gradual erosion of fundamental principles like mutual respect, the ability to see the humanity in those with whom we disagree, reasoned debate, the willingness to engage in thoughtful discussion based on facts and evidence, and the independence of the courts, free from political pressure and influence. Democracy, Kennedy reminds us with the wisdom of experience, is a fragile construct and demands constant care, vigilance, and a commitment from each and every citizen to uphold its values and protect its institutions. Threatening judges, intimidating court officials, and actively working to delegitimize the courts cross red lines that endanger the entire system, undermining the very foundations of our constitutional republic and potentially leading to a crisis of governance. Kennedy's message is not simply a lament, it's a call to action. Americans must look beyond the immediate gratification of winning political battles and scoring partisan points, and consider the long-term health and stability of their republic, the enduring strength of its institutions, and the preservation of its core values for future generations. The risk is real. It's not a hypothetical scenario or a distant threat. It touches the safety and security of judges, who must be able to make impartial decisions without fear of reprisal, the authority and legitimacy of the courts, which must be respected as the final arbiters of justice, and the very foundation of the rule of law itself, the principle that no one is above the law and that everyone is entitled to equal justice under the law. His warning compels us to ask ourselves a difficult but essential question. Are we, as citizens, as leaders, as a nation, doing enough to actively protect the foundations of our democracy, to safeguard the principles upon which this country was founded, and to ensure a just and equitable future for all? For generations, the United States has been more than a country. It's been an idea, a global symbol of democracy. Emerging democracies have looked to America's Constitution and its independent judiciary as a model. But today, America's internal struggles, polarization, distrust, and attacks on the courts send troubling signals worldwide. Allies worry about instability. Adversaries use America's divisions as proof that democracy is flawed. The world has admired America's resilience, but if the U.S. falters, it chills the hopes of those fighting for freedom elsewhere. Justice Kennedy's concerns are not just domestic, they have global implications. The health of American democracy shapes the prospects for democracy everywhere. The world is watching because the fate of the American experiment matters to all. America's political landscape has transformed into a relentless battlefield, a stark departure from its intended role as a platform for constructive dialogue and collaboration. The very foundations of our democratic process are being tested by an ever-widening chasm of division. It's no longer a forum for genuine debate, where ideas are exchanged and policies are shaped through thoughtful consideration. Instead, it's become an arena of constant conflict. The art of compromise, once a cornerstone of effective governance, is now openly mocked and derided. Political opponents are no longer viewed as simply holding different opinions. They are increasingly cast as enemies, fostering a climate of animosity and distrust. The media, often acting as an echo chamber, amplifies this division, sensationalizing conflicts and further polarizing the public. This constant barrage of outrage fuels anger that spills into every aspect of public life, poisoning the well of civic engagement and hindering our ability to address critical issues. This even extends to the judiciary, a branch of government that should be insulated from the partisan fray. Judges, who were once widely seen as impartial arbiters of justice, applying the law fairly and without bias, are now increasingly becoming targets of partisan attacks, facing threats and intimidation for simply doing their jobs. The very idea of an independent judiciary, a cornerstone of our legal system and a safeguard against tyranny, is now at risk. This is especially true when judges are viewed not as impartial interpreters of the law, but as political actors advancing specific agendas. Alarmingly, threats against judges have skyrocketed in recent years, creating a climate of fear and intimidation. This dangerous trend blurs the line between legitimate criticism and outright threats, undermining the rule of law. This pervasive climate of hostility ultimately undermines reasoned governance, making it increasingly difficult to find common ground and address the challenges facing our nation. It transforms politics into a zero-sum contest, where one side's victory is seen as the other's defeat, leaving no room for collaboration or compromise. As Justice Kennedy wisely warns, when fundamental institutions like the courts are consumed by partisan conflict and lose their perceived legitimacy, the very foundations of democracy itself are placed in grave peril. The path forward demands a return to shared facts, a commitment to truth, and a willingness to engage with information critically and responsibly. Ultimately, we must rediscover the importance of civil discourse, fostering an environment where respectful debate and the pursuit of common ground can once again flourish. Judicial safety is essential for democracy. An independent judiciary checks government power, but that independence is fragile. Judges must rule without fear. Threats and intimidation undermine justice at its core. When judges worry for their safety, impartiality is compromised and the rule of law weakens. Intimidation aims to sway outcomes by fear, not by legal argument. A climate of fear chills the entire judiciary, deterring principled people from serving. Defensive judging and reluctance to take tough cases erode justice for all. Attacks on judges are attacks on the rule of law itself. If society allows intimidation, the law loses its authority, and power shifts to the most threatening. Protecting judges is about safeguarding every citizen's right to a fair hearing. The abstract concept of a threat to the judiciary, something that might seem distant or theoretical, became heartbreakingly real in a way that shook the entire legal community. It wasn't just about policy or legal arguments anymore. It was about the very real danger faced by those who uphold the law. This stark reality hit on July 19, 2020, a date that will forever be etched in the memory of the American justice system. The news spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves across the nation. On that day, a gunman, meticulously disguised as a delivery driver to appear innocuous and blend into the everyday scene, chillingly targeted U.S. District Judge Esther Salas at her own home, a place that should have been a sanctuary, a haven of safety and peace. In a moment of unimaginable horror, her son Daniel, a bright and promising young man, was tragically killed, his life cut short in a senseless act of violence. And her husband, a loving partner and father, was critically wounded, fighting for his life in the aftermath of the attack. Judge Salas herself, a respected figure in the legal world, was the intended target of this heinous act. The attacker was not a stranger, but a disgruntled lawyer, someone familiar with the legal system. He had meticulously compiled personal information about Judge Salas and her family, engaging in stalking and research, fueled by a burning desire for revenge against someone he perceived had wronged him. This was not a random act of violence, a chance encounter gone wrong. It was a direct, premeditated attack on a judge, specifically targeting her because of the decisions she made while performing her judicial duties. The tragedy served as a stark reminder, exposing the deadly consequences that can arise from the demonization of the judiciary and the erosion of respect for the rule of law. In the face of unimaginable grief, Judge Salas displayed incredible strength, turning her personal tragedy into a powerful platform for advocacy. She dedicated herself to pushing for greater protection and enhanced security measures for judges and their families, recognizing the vulnerability they face. Her unwavering commitment and compelling story ultimately led to the passage of Daniel's Law, a landmark piece of legislation aimed at shielding judges' personal information from public access, thereby reducing the risk of targeted attacks and ensuring their safety. The attack on Judge Salas and her family serves as a stark and chilling warning that when respect for the courts and the rule of law dissolves, violence and chaos can tragically follow, undermining the very foundations of our society. The gunman was not motivated by a desire to seek justice through legal channels. Instead, he was consumed by a thirst for violent retribution, seeking to inflict pain and suffering on those he blamed for his perceived grievances. Judge Salas's profound loss serves as a solemn and heartbreaking reminder of the immense stakes involved in protecting the integrity and safety of our judicial system. It is imperative that we, as a society, make a conscious effort to lower the temperature of our political discourse, fostering a climate of respect and civility. And we must redouble our efforts to reinforce and strengthen the protections afforded to judges, ensuring their safety and security both inside and outside the courtroom. Their safety and well-being are inextricably linked to the safety and preservation of our democracy, and we must never take that connection for granted. Leaders' words shape the nation's tone and trust in its institutions. When leaders respect the judiciary, even in disagreement, they strengthen democracy. But when they attack judges or question the court's legitimacy, public trust erodes. The judiciary's authority rests on its perceived legitimacy, not force. Inflammatory rhetoric from leaders can embolden threats and violence. Justice Kennedy's warning is clear. Leaders must model respect for democratic norms. The power of the podium can build unity or sow chaos. Responsible leadership means fostering faith in the democratic process, not undermining it. Justice Kennedy sees peace as the foundation of democracy, not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of civility and respect. This peace allows society to function, innovate, and resolve disputes through law, not force. Today's climate of agitation and demonization threatens this fragile architecture. When politics becomes warfare, even the courts are dragged into the fray. Rebuilding peace requires civility, respectful engagement, and leaders who lower the temperature. Citizens must demand thoughtful debate and reject outrage as entertainment. Democracy is a collaborative enterprise, not a blood sport. Social cohesion and trust are essential for its survival. Rebuilding peace is urgent work, the very essence of the democratic experiment. Imagine a future where respect for the judiciary collapses. Court rulings are ignored, constitutional crises erupt, and the legal system becomes unpredictable. Justice is replaced by power and influence. The vulnerable suffer most. Social order unravels as people lose faith in fair hearings and turn to vigilantism. The rule of law gives way to the rule of the mob. This is the dystopian future Justice Kennedy warns against. Without a respected judiciary, there's no check on government or majority power. The erosion of trust in courts threatens the entire American system. Protecting judicial independence is essential to preserving freedom for all. The challenges to American democracy are serious, but not insurmountable. Justice Kennedy's warning is a call to action, not despair. We must recommit to truth, civility, and the defense of freedom. This is a patriotic duty, not a partisan one. Defending judicial independence and demanding civil discourse are responsibilities for all citizens. We must hold leaders accountable and engage with empathy, not animosity. The future of democracy depends on our willingness to protect its pillars. The stakes, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, could not be higher.